And you mentioned, I think BFM. We maybe call it DACT. Did you ever conduct that against other types, or was it always Goshawk versus Goshawk if you did something like that?
Now, basically, it was always Goshawk, Goshawk. They had a syllabus, and the reason I got to do some BFM was we had a mishap. We had a couple mishaps. I was there. Luckily, they all got out, and I had to do the JAG investigation on two particular mishaps. One was just took off in a section form together, and then they lost their engine and they punched. The other was a 1v1, and the aircraft departed flight, inverted spin, and they ejected. Well, I was assigned as the JAG officer for that.
Hmm.
And, I thought, COD guy, I don't get to do this stuff. So I went to my boss, the Commodore, and I convinced him, so, sir, look, I can't do this unless I understand BFM. And he looked at me, was like, all right, Bunky, So he allowed me, I could jump in. I jumped in, I think I ended up doing like 16 or 18 BFM hops. I would just jump in the back or the front. A lot of times the instructors let me fly,
Hmm.
so I did a lot of reading and stuff. So I got to do mostly 1v1. I rode into some, 1v2 flights,
Hmm.
or 2v1, however you want to call it. So, but it was almost always T-45s. I do know a few cases where instructors went up maybe to Fallon, and they did dissimilar stuff against maybe, the Top Gun INSOC aircraft, maybe. I've heard of that, yeah.
You sent me a couple of photos of our RAF T2s. I think
Oh,
someone
yeah.
mentioned that they went up against them as well.
Yeah, they did. And so that was Rage. Rage will probably see this video because I'm going to send it to him. He's going to have to watch it. Rage wanted to train me when I went through training, and he's a former Hornet guy, and he was the opso at the time. So when you guys came down with those gorgeous the gorgeous Hawks, I think they were 120 series. I mean, they were absolutely beautiful, the black gloss and everything. And so guys got to go up and fight them.
Hmm.
And said, I've learned from a couple of Hawk guys that said, hey, it didn't have the performance of like your Hawk 60s, but apparently it had combat flaps, or I think that what they said, they would automatically deploy in turns or something, and it really it was able to wrap up the T-45. The T-45 is still outweighed that jet by I think 700 pounds because the gear.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rage told me biggest thing was that FADEC motor, just because there's no lag whatsoever. And that's the one thing you have to be careful about T-45. I was going to say that was one of his weaknesses, was that motor.
Hmm.
It tended to compressor stall pretty easily. I know I had it happen one time simply in a baby form where I'm braking, and just the airflow into that, I guess the intake, here's some pops, and you roll out. Everything was fine, but sometimes
Yeah.
guys could lose that motor. But the big thing was behind the boat. Jets have spool up times, but that thing really, I mean, if you went to idle, you had to be at idle. I mean, don't come back at idle and leave it there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be in a world. It just seemed to, like, if I went up into a stall, let's say, we stall the aircraft, or we are recovering, I add power. It seemed, for me, I mean, it took a long time for that engine to spool up
Yeah.
and kind of the aircraft going. I mean, it didn't have a great thrust to weight ratio. So I thought that, in my opinion, was the biggest weakness,
Hmm.
was the non-FADEC low thrust motor.